Welcome, everybody, and thank you once again for joining us at the Digital Selling Secrets podcast and show with your host, Jerry Moneycarot, and your co-host, Gary L. Dennis. Just want to let you know this show is brought to you by B2B Digital Selling Secrets book, and we have a special offer at the end of the show, so stay tuned to listen to it. Today's show is very special. All our shows are special, but I'm going to say this is extra special because we are actually talking to the author of the book, B2B Digital Selling Secrets, and that is our favorite co-host, our favorite host, Gary L. Dennis. So Gary, let me just toss it over to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I'm the favorite, but yeah,
Definitely not the better looking, so.
yeah, definitely not the better looking either. I appreciate the intro there, Jerry. Now, yeah, excited to have the conversation this morning. We bring different guests on all the time, and Jerry and I have been in this digital selling journey now for, I guess it's been around 3 years now. Both of us have been in very complex sales for most of our career. I've been in large, complex technical sales for about 15 years. Jerry, how long have you been in technical sales?
It's about the same, pretty much the same.
Okay, and I'm involved in the air conditioning, commercial air conditioning, and industrial air conditioning industry. Jerry's involved in the medical industry. So I kind of got involved in digital selling. I was responsible for a very large territory across the United States, and I was finishing up my MBA, and and Jerry and we had a couple other people that were involved. We were looking at starting an app to help people connect with mentors in sales. So because obviously we had always been interested in growing as sales professionals and sales leaders. Jerry, has graduate degrees. I have graduate degrees. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that we're very motivated about learning about improving our skill set, which is and was sales and sales leadership. So we're always trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to do that. And we started running across digital marketing, and we're looking at developing this app. And so we started doing all this market research around technology and sales. And we started noticing a trend that people weren't just buying flashlights and fidget spinners online. Now they're looking at how can you leverage a B2B, a business to business environment using technology. How can you reach more people and build relationships? And it's very different than just trying to sell tennis shoes online or trying to sell your old furniture on Facebook, or trying to, whatever it is. There's so many different segments within sales, and it can be classified as digital marketing. It can be classified as, and then if there's no online presence at all, for the most part, it's just traditional sales, and that's being combined. Jerry,
You bring up a really good point. When people oftentimes, when they think of digital selling, they think of Amazon Market or Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. I don't even know if Craigslist still exists, but those kind of things. That's what people are thinking about. But it's a whole lot more than that. A whole lot more than that. This journey that you and I have been on has been so interesting, causing us to want to learn more. How much can we leverage the power of technology in order to improve our revenues and make things more efficient for a salesperson? Wouldn't you agree that's kind of how the journey started as we started doing our market research?
Yeah, it's all about efficiency. And at the end of the day, sales in general is very financially driven. So we're trying to figure out how to maximize our time to get the most return on our investment, which as a sales professional is basically time, or a sales leader. And trust is a huge factor. If you're looking at $100,000, $200,000, $1 million projects, no one's going to whip out their credit card and purchase $1 million without getting to know you and building that trust. And even then, you're probably going to have to meet with them in person or have a video call. But you can do a lot of things technically from a technology standpoint up until that point. You can use digital marketing And then you can also transition that from marketing to sales using technology. So digital selling is basically encompassing all of that. It's encompassing the digital marketing aspect of it, but staying connected digitally and transitioning to more from a one-to-many to more of a one-to-one interaction, but using like social media, using video calls, using apps, using other things to continuously build that relationship up until the point where the client is ready to make a sell, or you further qualified the client to where maybe you meet with them in person and then you go back to digital. Like I'm using a piece of technology right now where I have access to a database of people and filters and phone numbers. So I can call someone and set up a meeting and then still continuously engage with them on LinkedIn or some of the other social media platforms. So it's all about looking at that journey, that buyer's journey from start to finish, and how can you transition parts of that journey to digital. So no longer getting in your car and stopping by offices and knocking on buildings, knocking on doors, and that's all you do. Now you can use digital marketing plus that, and you can have that. You can in the background, you can have all these digital marketing advertisements or promotions or news feeds or whatever it is. You can have that going in parallel to you doing your traditional sales process as well, or you can combine the two. There's lots of ways to innovate around it. It depends on your industry, depends on your market, depends on your product. But at the end of the day, in a very complex sell, in a business-to-business environment, there's lots of things you can do with technology, but it's still going to be different than running an ad for a widget, basically.
So it's what I find. Kind of draw parallels to some of my mentors for within the sales atmosphere. Some of you may not know, but I'm actually a clinician, a medical doctor, and I transitioned into sales, and that's a story for another day. But um, talking to some of my mentors, some folks that have been in the industry for a very, very long time, sales industry, and those some have retired also, but they've told me about times where they would park the car and go to a payphone. Think about it, how long ago that was, in order to connect with clients. They would go, they'd be on their route to, as Gary was saying, to go knock on the door and meet their customers, and to stay in touch, they would keep quarters in their pockets or whatever, or the phone cards, and go to a payphone and make multiple phone calls throughout the day to make sure that they're still keeping their touches. And then what happened from the whole technology standpoint, they graduated to a cell phone, and the cell phone allowed them to keep in touch. And I think that transition, when you look at it, that's not very different from what's happening today, where the transition has moved into, as Gary was talking about, the different avenues, social media, as we're doing now on this video conferencing platform. There are also sorts of different ways that you can leverage technology in order to be that much more efficient and be able to figure out how to create that sale.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's really interesting how sales and marketing, basically it's if digital marketing and traditional sales had a baby, it would be digital sales basically. If I guess
I think that's a great analogy, because you and I, we were talking to another gentleman a while back, and I apologize, I forget his name, but he basically was talking about, and he was trying to help others understand, because they were stuck on the traditional mindset, that the wall, so to speak, between traditional sales and traditional marketing is getting blended because of the digital atmosphere, where you have to understand some of the marketing, you have to understand some of the sales in order to work well on the digital side.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. There's still a lot of people in those camps, right? Where I am a marketer. I am not a sales professional. And then you got the sales professionals saying, "Oh, those marketers, they don't know anything." There's always been that divide, and it's interesting. Um, if you were to segment those two groups, I mean, the personalities a lot of times, at least from what I've seen in those two different segments within marketing, if you will. I think of sales as kind of a cousin of marketing. Um, they're very different, but if they work together with those very different perspectives and personalities, um, I mean, who knows what can happen? And I think with digital selling, it's a matter of bringing those two people together, but also learning different elements of both sides of the fence and blending those together, to maximize your time, maximize your efficiency, so you can spend more time with your family. Um, you can reach your sales goals quicker. I mean, for example, I was on Facebook the other night, and it was a marketing. I'm part of this marketing group, and I was listening to some of the interactions, and one of the admins was posting on there, basically saying cold calling doesn't work. Picking up the phone doesn't work. And he's like, you don't want to call somebody. All you want to do is write blogs, or all you want to do is track your website visitors and send them an ad. And that stuff is important. It's very important as a business. But the quickest way to qualify a client is pick up the phone and talk to them. I mean, but it can be an iterative process, though, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so you can have a blog out there to where if you do pick up the phone and call them and they start looking for you, and you kind of give them what you want them to see with your content you have out there, that's a lot faster than waiting for one day for them to read your blog and call you. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm all about lead magnets. I mean, you could put together some very good lead magnets, but at the same time, if you can just get on the phone with a few people and understand how they think, and understand you can understand your target market a lot faster than coming up with just a hypothetical avatar. I mean, I'm all about coming up with theory and avatars and who your target market is. But once you do that, if you pick up the phone and start having, if you have a list of 100 people, you start calling, you're going to find out real quick if that avatar is very accurate or not. And then you can revise that avatar to what the market actually is and not wait. I mean, I think that's a mistake that I've made. Back when I had my digital selling business, when I went all in on digital marketing at first, thinking, wow, this is the silver bullet that's going to change the game. And it is to a certain extent, but at the same time, you can't forget
That there's a sales component to it.
there's a huge sales component,
Uh,
especially, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so Gary, I've been on the corporate marketing side as well, so I totally get what you're talking about. So having both that sales and marketing, and you have real world experience with the marketing, and this is no hit to our audience that are in marketing. It has nothing to do about that it's not good or anything at all. Is marketing has its place, and as we're talking about in digital selling, is the next step after marketing is how do you the true interaction between the salesperson or the the person who's trying to get or help the customer to buy, and the prospective customer. That's where the digital selling comes in. It's blurring that line between digital marketing, which everybody's been talking about for years and years on end, but at the end of the day, what happens after, as Gary said, after the lead has been created? What happens after that? What are the next steps? And that's where the digital selling process really comes into play and into focus. Being able to speak to those people, being able to actually connect. And then Gary hit upon that a while back about creating trust. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you're a small business owner, you have to know both. And if you're part of a big
Right.
corporation, you got to be willing. If you're a sales professional, you got to be willing to listen to your marketing department. And if you're a marketer, you got to be willing to listen to your sales department. And you have to have that communication. And so, with my book, B2B Digital Selling Secrets, it's if you're a small business, you can apply those principles right away on both sides of the fence. But if you're part of a corporation and you read the book, I think you're going to gain an appreciation for the marketing side, and you're going to get some ideas to where you can team up with your marketing team, or your marketing team can team up with your sales team, and y'all can come up with ideas together on how best to serve the client versus being at opposite ends of the spectrum like it has been forever. Um,
For our listeners out there, I just want to let you know that this book was on the Amazon bestseller list as well. So it's a hot commodity, and be sure you pick it up and read it. I've read the book. I'm very honored to say Gary gave me the opportunity to write the preface for the book. So I'm truly honored and humbled by that. But it is a very good book. The years of knowledge and experience that Gary has put into this book and condensed it into this concise uh, it, book book for you to read and glean so much information is truly phenomenal. And I would also say that during this time, this this situation of COVID, the pandemic that's happening throughout the world, things have changed dramatically, a whole lot faster than anybody's expected, especially in the realm of digital sales. There's no better time than to pick up this book and start learning as much as you can about it, about the process of digital selling. Of course, keep listening to our podcasts. You're going to learn a little bit each and every time that you hear from us and our guests who have tons of experience. But this book is going to take it to the next level. Um, hey Gary, would you mind telling us a little bit about the offer that you have for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I do that, I just want to say I don't claim to be the best digital marketer or salesperson or digital salesperson out there. I've never claimed to be that. But what I will say is I've spent hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars, and a lot of time. And this is something very passionate about, to where I put it into a book to give you some ideas about how to play the game a little bit better, right? Um, it's like any game. You think about basketball, you think about golf. Basketball is pretty simple, right? You just throw the ball in the hoop. That's all you got to do. Simple game, right? Or golf, you just hit the ball in the hole. It's simple game, right? Yeah, it's simple, but doing it can become very complicated, and
Right,
and
right.
and it's all about how you do it and how you play the game. How Michael Jordan plays the game is completely different than how Larry Bird played the game. I mean, they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and it becomes more of an art than a science once you get really good at it. But this will help you um, craft your capabilities, because as a sales professional or a marketer, you have different skill sets. Your personality is different. Your talents are different. Your strengths are different. Your interests are different. Your industries are different. So it's a lot more complicated than a traditional sport. So it's going to take some additional time to learn the game first of all, and then to really make it an art is going to be up to you. So I want to give this. It was on, as Jerry mentioned, it was an Amazon bestseller. It's available on Amazon. You can purchase it on Amazon if you'd like, but I'm also giving away a free copy. You just have to pay for shipping, and that can be purchased at B2B. That's the number 2, B2B, digitalsellingsecrets.com. So I'm giving away a free copy, and then I've built a site where I'm going to give it away free, but also I have a course in there as well that has some great templates that you can use for digital selling or traditional sales. I have some templates that, once you purchase the book, you'll see an offer for that course as well. One of the offers is how to build a website in 10 minutes. That's one thing I spent a lot of time on when I first started my business. How do you build a website? You get all these different ads from different people, but I didn't want a website that would just be out there sitting for someone to show up one day. I wanted a website that was more like a sales professional, where if you go to the site, it walks you through it. And at the end of the day, you get some sort of sale or some sort of lead, versus just throwing money in the wind and hoping somebody will find you one day.
And guys, I'll tell you, as Gary and I have been on this journey, we've tried multiple types of websites to try to make this work. And so it's not just something that he's put in a book or on a website. It's tried and tested.
Yeah, and actually, someone that I've started to follow, for years now, who I'm constantly learning from as well. And there's different people out there in the market, but one of those is Russell Brunson. Um, and it's actually his software that I use to build the sites. It's called ClickFunnels, and it's an amazing software. It's simple to use. You don't have to be a programmer or coder, and that way you can quickly build a site and not have to. And you can focus on what your strengths are. So I'm actually giving this a book away free as well. There will be another link to give this book away. And this is all about, once you build your site, you got to know how to drive traffic to your site, and that's so important. I saw, yeah, somebody had a post on Instagram a while back, and it said, building websites is not marketing, right? That's not marketing. Marketing is communication. It's getting visibility. It's
Right. Right.
um, so this so once you build the site, the most important part is activity, right? Picking up the phone, uh, doing advertisements, creating your social profiles, and being everywhere. Um, and so there's a lot of detail on that, and there's a lot of that in my book as well. I think with my book, it's more focused on business to business, and then you should also be looking at different marketers that are out there, and there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of there's a lot of scams as well. So I know I spent some time buying courses that were expensive courses initially, and you see the guys leaning on the Lamborghinis, and they're probably their uncle's Lamborghini, or they're just taking pictures in front of it, and they've never done business in their life. And you're gonna if you just start purchasing random courses, you're gonna get some of these people that really don't help you at all, and they waste a lot of your time.
Guilty.
Yeah, same here. And some of the books I've read, some of the courses I've taken, I just don't want you to waste your time like I did initially. So Russell Brunson's great. Um,
But I think your book will also help help our readers in case they want to look into further learning. They'll also be able to better discern what are other courses to take and what are other books to read because of that. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm always putting out recommendations. I'm on most platforms. Probably most active on Facebook and Instagram as far as my sales content. LinkedIn I use more for I am still in the air conditioning industry, so I have a big focus there as well, because I'm constantly learning as well. It's not like I'm this guru that checked out from sales because I know everything. I don't claim to be that at all. I'm still actively learning in technical sales, large complicated projects, but in the air conditioning industry. But Jerry's in the medical industry, so there's some correlation and some synergy there, that when we start talking about digital selling and large, complex, complicated sales, big ticket items, then we learn from each other as well. Then we have guests on this show, and we learn from them. And you could basically take that entire buyer's journey from start to finish, and you can break it down into so many different segments, whether that be copywriting or website development or SEO or traffic, or you could just continuously break it down. And that's kind of what we're doing on this show, is we're taking those little pieces of each section of the buyer's journey and really developing content and learning about that facet. And then if you do that over time, you're going to be unstoppable, because this is not something that's going away. This is something that is growing. Like I said, Jerry and I, when we started doing our market research, we saw the trend, and it was moving fast. And since COVID hit, it's just skyrocketed. Every company,
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. If you think about a year ago, some of the companies Jerry and I were talking to, they're like, oh, we don't use online. We don't do digital, and
Do you remember? And at our conference, we had a guy from a traditional industry. He questioned one of the speakers. He said, "You can expect me to go out there and start posting things on Snapchat." And that's when the guy was trying to explain digital selling is not about getting on Snapchat with bunny ears or whatever. That's not what this is about. But the ability to move away from that thought process was very challenging for him.
yeah, it's some people are still holding on to everything they've done in the past, and yeah, I'm sure there's lots of quotes out there talking about um, not focusing on the past and not focusing on the present. And I wish I could think. I've heard some good ones before, but basically, um, it's not business as usual anymore. It's you got to
Business is unusual.
Exactly. You gotta constantly be innovating. And
That
if
was from one of our podcast guests, the former chief chief of innovation at Walt Disney.
oh,
He,
absolutely,
right.
yeah.
That's what it was his quote, business as unusual. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's constantly changing. So if you haven't started learning yet, if you haven't started learning what this is all about, you need to definitely need to start if you want to stay ahead of the curve, because this is a continuously moving target as far as getting up to speed. So yeah, so we got two books here. My book, Russell Brunson's book. I'm going to put if you go on the podcast in the description, you'll see the links to these two books. Definitely check them out. They will help you. They'll help you not only with the content, but they'll help you start thinking about your own ideas on how you want to apply what you learned in your specific market for your specific product, and really turn it into something that you create. And because that's the idea. There is no perfect solution, but there are a lot of tried and true ways to do things, and just other ideas. So I'll have that book, those two books in the description, and we'll have more content on digital selling coming here in the future.
With that, folks, we're getting on for time. So just want to say thank you all once again for joining us. And Gary, thank you for taking some time this morning to tell us a little bit about the book, about digital selling and digital selling secrets, and also the special offer that you're willing to provide to our audience. And folks, take care and see you all next time. Cheers.